welcome to the space you're in. I'm your host, Diana Bandoh, aka the Glow Up Guru. And today we're going to be talking about identity, reinvention, and how I went from being a lawyer to a jewelry designer to a life coach. So, if you are someone who has an idea for a business or just a passion project, something that you want to start, and you are worried about what other people will think, today's episode is for you. And if you're someone who has someone in your life who you're like, oh my gosh, they're always like up to something and you just don't know how to deal with it, this episode is for you as well. So get comfortable, get some beverages. I have two, and let's get right into it. So if you have been watching my life at all for the last 15 years, what you will have seen, so it's 2025 right now. So let's start with 2010. In 2010, I was in college and I was going salsa dancing a lot, like 3-4 times a week. And I was going to salsa conferences and I was like a salsa instructor in college. So if you looked at my life then, you would have said, okay, this is a girl who just cares about dancing salsa and, she goes to school and she works hard. And those things would not have not been true, but they wouldn't have been the whole story. The whole story is I grew up in a small town called Winchester, Massachusetts, and I had two immigrant parents that made it very clear to me that I could do pretty much whatever I wanted with my life as long as it involved going to Harvard and not being a disgrace. I never went to Harvard, and whether or not it was a disgrace is debatable. Some say yes, some say no. I'll let you be the judge. So when I was in high school, my parents got divorced, and my mom, being the working powerhouse that she was, who just was not trying to deal with my contentious, teenage, difficult self, was like, your father's moving to Africa, I'm moving to Texas, you get to choose where you want to go, but you need to pack your room. Like, she just was not trying to fight with me. And little backstory, both my parents are from West Africa. Dad's from Ghana, mom's from Nigeria, and they met at Harvard. So that's why going to Harvard was like, what I was going to do. And I started saying I was going to go to Harvard from what I was told, that I started saying it around the time I was 5. So anyway, stay with me. So they get divorced and I decided to move to Texas with my mother. And, moving is always hard, especially when it's to another state. But my move happened during my junior year of high school, which in my opinion is like the hardest time to move, because by the time you're a junior in high school, the friendship circles are basically like set in stone. So people just don't feel the need to like be super friendly. It's like, we've got our clique, it's established, and you're supposed to just kind of like have the car in neutral and just cruise into senior year with your established social circles. And as moving from Texas or Massachusetts to Texas, the school systems are a little bit different in each state. So in Massachusetts, when we moved in March, it was like halfway through the year. And when we got to Texas, the school year was almost over. Now I think it's because of just the way that the weather is in each state. Like, if the school year was on the same schedule in Massachusetts, I think the energy costs would be higher, and vice versa. If Texas had the same months as New England, they'd spend more money on air conditioning and stuff like that. So whatever. I get to Texas, junior year's almost over here, and struggled to make friends, but I did. I made some friends. They weren't necessarily the best people. A handful of them did go to rehab. I've lost touch with pretty much all of my high school. I'm trying to think, all the people that I was friends with when I first moved to Texas, I don't talk to anymore. It was a rough crowd. And yeah, if you looked at that point in my life, you would have said I was probably going to end up, just kind of not doing very much, because hanging out with a circle of people that were just partying and not living for tomorrow. And after high school, I took a 5-year break from formal education, which was unheard of for my family. Like in my family, like going to Ivy League schools is what's the norm. So a 5-year break is just like, what? But I had been to 4 high schools by the time I graduated because my parents separated twice before they got divorced. And with each separation, there was a move, and then there was the move to Texas when the divorce was final. So I'd been to 4 high schools in 4 years. I was exhausted. I was not wanting to like force myself into school. Sometimes I wish I had, but more on that later. And, the one thing I knew for sure is that I loved to dance. I started doing ballet when I was 3, and I did a 1-year internship with an organization that's no longer around. It was a Christian missions organization. And when I did that, I was on the acting team, not the dance team, because I wanted to take a little break from dance. But then after that, I came home and very quickly found a dance company, started rehearsing with them, and made some great memories performing and rehearsing with that company. It was called the Colin Dance Ensemble. And so did that, and then after a couple years, so I finished high school in 2002, 2007, I decided to start college. And really what had prompted that decision is I got offered an apprenticeship with a company that I loved. It's called Houston Metropolitan Dance Company. They're incredible. And the rehearsal director had seen me perform twice, like over the course of like a little over a year. And she's like, oh my gosh, your technique has grown so much since the last time I saw you perform. We'd love for you to come rehearse with us. And so I did. And when I got there, I realized everybody had financial support from either a romantic partner or parents, and I had neither. And the way that the rehearsal schedule is at a dance company, it's not super feasible to have a job. Generally technique classes are in the mornings, and then rehearsal for performances in the afternoons. And so, you have the evenings off, but you need to sleep and recover so that you can go back to rehearsal the next day, because your body is pretty beat up from all that dancing. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to make it work economically. When you're that young, you could like waitress and things like that, but it would have just been too hard on my body, and I wouldn't have had the time to recover. And the other thing is, for a dancer, your career is often over by 30. And I was at the ripe age of 23. And I already had some injuries. So I wasn't sure that I was going to make it to 30 anyway. So I was like, okay, this is where I come up with something else. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just went to college, no real plan. I was on my own financially. So I got a job at a company that made nutritional supplements, which is part of where I've learned so much about nutrition. So if you hear me talking about things like gymnema sylvestre and chromium picolinate and gotu kola and ashwagandha, I learned about those things at the job that I had in 2007. And at the time, epigenetics was something that nobody was really talking about, but the head of research and development, who became a friend and had sons my age, and his sons became my friends, he was very into epigenetics, like when nobody else was talking about it. And his name's Dr. Mark Miller, absolutely brilliant. And so I got this really cool, front stage, backstage pass, learning about supplements and nutrition and how you can alter gene expression and how you can, use things to alter like your body fat and your muscle tone. The company had a amino acid supplement that people called, what would they call it? Hail damage repair, liquid lipo in a bottle. I mean, all these different terms, because it would help protect your lean muscle mass so you could lose fat faster while preserving your muscle mass. So anyway, worked there, went to school. The company had tuition reimbursement as long as your GPA was above a certain level. So I had a little added incentive to keep my grades up. I was an A student anyway, but added incentive because I wanted that tuition reimbursement. And then, around junior year, I started asking people in my class, like, what are you doing after college? And my degree was political science. So surprise, surprise, a lot of people were going to law school. And law school was not something that had been on my radar. Like, I literally went to college with no plan. But I was like, well, I mean, I know that I have better grades than a lot of these people that are talking about going to law school, because in my degree program, they would release a list of everybody who, you know, had like the top 10 GPA percentile for the program. And so everybody who was on the list knew who was on the list, and I was one of the people. And a lot of the people who said that they want to go to law school were not on the list. So I was like, well, if I have better grades than a lot of these people, I guess I'll apply to law school too. So I did. And I got into the University of Houston again. So there was the Houston Metropolitan Dance Company when I was a dancer, and then University of Houston when I was thinking about law school. And I do wonder what life would have been like if I'd gone there, because I love Houston, mostly because my skin is really great there, because it's very moist, but not important. It's the humidity, it rains a lot, so my skin is always like goddess. And we love it. I'm always selfie ready in Houston. So I go to SMU, and then about a year after I graduated from SMU, I got a job at Goldman Sachs. So, you know, it looked like, oh, she got the degree in political science, and then she went to law school, and then she got the job in the legal department, and like, it looked probably a lot like very orderly, but it was just me kind of like stumbling through it. And another thing that happened is I graduated from law school without a job, which about half of my class did. And I sat for the bar exam, which at the time was 15 hours long. So it's 3 hours on day 1, 6 hours on day 2, 6 hours on day 3. And the year that I took the bar exam, pass rates nationwide were like the lowest they'd been in like 10 years. So I was horrified that I failed. I was like, actually, like I cried when I left on the last day, because I was so convinced that I had failed the bar exam. Cried. And, but you know, lo and behold, I passed, which is good, because one of the things I said was like, I'm never doing that again, because it was so traumatic. If you've never taken a 15-hour exam before, that's all from memory, I sincerely hope that it's never a thing that you have to do. It's very, very stressful, which is probably part of why I eventually became a stress expert, which I am today. More on that later. But you know, I passed it, and then I got the job at Goldman. And while I was like looking for a job, I kind of went into a little bit of a depression, and to cheer myself up, I would daydream. And I would say, okay, if you could do anything at all, and you're guaranteed to be successful, what would you do? And the one thing I would say is, I want to be the Kendra Scott of Aruba. And, you know, that was the thing that kept coming up for me. But I was like, well, that's insanity. You just graduated from law school, and you need to pay back those student loans, and you need to like figure out what you're going to do when bar results come out and you haven't passed. So Kendra Scott of Aruba, that's really cute, but like, that's not going to work. Well, funny enough, 4 years later, I go to Bali and fall in love with the pearls that they have there. They're Baroque shaped, so like the pearls in like this necklace and this bracelet, they're not from Bali, but they've got the asymmetrical shape. If you go to my website, this is the Ruka necklace and the Ruka bracelet, and you can, there's really good photography, so you can see there. So dianabandoh.com, Ruka. If you don't see it, it's because they're sold out, but right now they're available. So, and code VIP20 will give you 20% off. So I go to Bali, and I just fall in love with the pearls, and I'm buying them up for myself. And then I get the great idea, like, Mother's Day's coming, I should get some for mom, you know, so I'm not like a totally like selfish daughter. So I called my brother and sister and said, hey, like, do you want to get some jewelry from Bali for mom for Mother's Day? Some pearls. And they were like, of course, obviously. How much money? And I was like, oh, you know, whatever. So they sent me some money. I got like a really nice set. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe some of my other friends will want, things for their moms too. So I texted some other friends and said, hey, like, do you want jewelry from Bali for your mom for Mother's Day? I'm here right now. And, I can send you pictures of like the stuff. And everyone was like, obviously, I want, obviously, jewelry from Bali. Are you kidding? Yes, I want jewelry from Bali. So next thing you knew, I had like 2 pages of handwritten orders from different people. And so the initial idea was I'm just going to import pearls from Bali a couple times a year, have a trunk show, and, say if you like it, get it. And then whatever people don't buy, I'll just keep, because I really just wanted an excuse to shop some more. And I probably would have stuck with that idea, except I put my name on the business. I called it Diana Bandoh Jewelry. And very quickly realized, like, okay, I'm never, ever putting my name on anything again. From the next thing is going to have some type of alias, which is partly why my coaching practice is the Glow Up Guru. It's not Diana Bandoh Coaching. It's just, anyway. Because like when it's your name, I don't know, there's like an emotional attachment, not important. So I was like, well, because it's my name, I feel like I should design the pieces. Like right now, like all I did was like took a trip and brought it back. Like I don't even know why my name's on it. There's nothing me in that. So what I did is I broke apart all of the pieces that I hadn't sold and made new creations with them. And I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna like any of this. Took pictures on my iPhone, put it on an Etsy shop. People bought it. And people bought enough that I was eventually able to afford to, hire a professional photographer, which is when sales really started to increase because, a good image is a game changer. And in the process of doing it, I realized a couple of things. Like the love of jewelry started when I was a little girl doing ballet, because I would get new earrings for each performance because I wanted things to like sparkle underneath the lights on stage while I was dancing. And because just day in and day out, my mother would always say, African women always wear earrings, which is part of the reason why on my website, like the earrings are always the biggest collections. Like there's earrings, rings, necklaces, and bracelets, but the earrings are always the biggest collection. So now you know why. My mom was like, African women always wear earrings, always have your earrings on. So, start the jewelry line, make my own pieces. In the process of doing that, I realized, it's not the designs that drive sales, it's the marketing. And I didn't have a marketing background. I was a ballerina that somehow stumbled her way into law school and then, gets hired at Goldman Sachs, and I'm working there. But I'm like, marketing, graphic design, like there's so many other pieces of running a business I just didn't know. And then I get to the end of like my first year in business and realize that my first year of sales in my own business was, and let's be clear, I said first year of sales. I did not say profit, okay? I was still in the red, but sales was, and I was like, my first year of sales was more than my first year salary at Goldman, which, to be clear, my sales were great. I also was underpaid, so that kind of 2 separate things. But I just was like, well, if I can generate more in sales of earrings and necklaces than I get as a first year, like at this multi-billion-dollar investment bank, then I should just go all in on my business. Now, I do not stand by that reasoning, okay? It's what I thought at the time. It's not what I'm telling you to do. It's not what I would tell anyone to do. But it was my thought process. And by that point, I was very unhappy in my job for a host of reasons that maybe I will one day talk about, maybe not. I haven't decided. But for now, the choice I'm making is to keep my lips zipped. But I was unhappy, and I was so unhappy that I actually asked. They were doing layoffs, and so I'd asked for a severance package for about a year by the time I finally quit. That's how unhappy I was. I was like, hey, I hear you're laying people off. You should fire me. I'll go. I'll start packing my things now. I can just not come back tomorrow. What do I need to do to get a severance package? And it was always, your performance scores are too high. The way that it worked, at least when I was there, is you get your annual performance review and then you'd be ranked first, second, third, fourth quartile. And I was told my performance was always too high for me to be seriously considered for downsizing, which was like, but I'm telling you I want to go. So how do we make an exception? Asking for a friend. It's me. Anyway, after a year of asking for a severance package, I just quit. And it was funny because when I did, my managers were like, we didn't think you'd ever quit. I'm like, I've only been asking for a severance package for 12 months, but okay. So I left, and part of the calculation in leaving was I had a growing number of people who were brides that were interested in wearing the jewelry, and they did. And I thought, oh, well, if I focus, I left in September, at the end of September, and it's like, if I really focus and am strategic, I can do well during wedding season. What's more guaranteed than wedding season? Well, the wedding season in particular that we're talking about happened to be the 2020 wedding season. So I left Goldman. It was like the last day of September 2019. And my plan was to make my money for the year. Like, I had savings and, did the math. I was like, as long as I do well during wedding season, I'm good. Well, the 2020 wedding season didn't really happen because of a little thing called the coronavirus. So, and I had like a backup, I was working at a law firm that represented Goldman, but they didn't have much work for about 3 months because their clients weren't wanting to do deals until they knew what was happening with the market. So suddenly I don't have my paycheck from my day job, and my backup plan job don't have that paycheck either, and was starting to run out of savings because I had like about 6 months, but I was thinking I wouldn't need to touch it because, brides will want their stuff for their summer weddings by March. And anyway, so, I'm in this situation where I'm like really freaking out because I don't have financial support. I don't have like people I can call. Like, I am my financial support. And as this is happening and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, like, what am I going to do with my life? What's the move? What's the plan? My phone, like, I just noticed like it starts ringing a lot, and it's people calling me for comfort and advice. And I at first was like, that's weird. You're calling me? Like, you have a job. You have a job with a company that's promised not to lay anyone off. Like, you have way more stability than I do, and you're coming to me for support? Like, that's crazy. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, but that's been my whole life. Like, even when I was a little kid, adults would ask me for advice. Like, my whole life, people have come to me for comfort. And when I was at Goldman, I had a reputation for giving really good advice. And part of the reason why my network was so big is because people would tell their coworkers who I'd never heard of, oh, you need to find Diana Bandoh. She gives really good advice. And so people would come to me needing advice about all different things. And I would basically tell everyone the same thing. Like, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I've got this really complicated situation with a coworker. It's so complicated. Oh, I've got this complicated situation with my manager, like this, and I want this promotion. I want to switch teams. I would literally tell everyone the same thing. I'd say, what would a white guy do? Everyone always had a really quick answer, like, through their complicated situation. So complicated. So complicated. Oh my gosh, it's so complicated. I said, what would a white guy do? They were like, oh, a white guy would blah, 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 blah. And I'd just say, do that. Do that. And when like I got the blank stare of like, if it's working for a white guy, do that. Because what they're doing is working. Do that. So they would. And I like got to know, I was like, how come nobody ever tells anyone? I keep saying I gave everyone the same advice. And maybe I'd say a little bit more than just, talk to a white guy. But anyway, COVID's happening. People are calling, freaking out, and calling me. And one of the things that struck me is like nobody who called me for advice was in a worse situation than I was. Like everybody else who's calling me for advice was in a situation where I was like, yes, I would trade places with you. Yes, I would trade places with you. Like you have way more certainty than I do. I should be calling you freaking out, not the other way around. And at this point, I had also started working with a life coach. And so I was telling my coach, like, oh my gosh, like I just keep getting a lot of calls. But it made me realize, like, my whole life, like I've been someone who people call about their kids, their marriages, their jobs, their this, that, the other thing. And for years, I had been giving people advice on what to do. And the reason I gave such good advice is because on the low, I had been into personal development pretty much since I was 16 when I started seeing a therapist, which I've seen a therapist off and on since then. I'm about to be 41, so a little over almost 25 years off and on of seeing a therapist, which some people are like, what do you need to see a therapist for? It's like each season of my life, new issues were presented. Like the things that were, when I was 16, my parents were separating and divorced. Like then I had different things when I got into law school. I had different things when I had like my first big girl job. I had different things when I was like dating people, trying to figure out like if marriage was going to work or not in my 30s. Like each season of my life, there were different issues that came up that were just novel, and having a therapist really helped. And then last year, like the freaking out about turning 40, which I, generally have not been someone who like cares much about age, but I really freaked out about turning 40. And my therapist, who at that point had been seeing me for over a decade, was like, I called him, and you get to a point where you get the personal cell phone number. So I called him and I was like, let me know if I need to book a session for this. He's like, what's the issue? So I told him, he's like, you don't need to book a session. Here's the deal. It's really sad, but angst about turning 40 should have been normalized by now. When I was turning 40, I was married, I had kids, I had successful private practice, felt the exact same way you do. I was like, you did? Really? Which is also why like the space you're in kind of, began, because I was like, wow, like 40 is not going to look anything like what I thought it was going to look like. And, I was like, what do I do to like be okay with the way it looks now? And it was over drinks with some girlfriends. And one of them was like, why don't you call the podcast The Space You're In? Because that seems like what you really want to talk about. And T-Way. Therapist said angst about turning 40 was normal. So then I was like, it's normal. I'm normal. Nothing to see here. Let's all go home. And so then I turned 40 last year, getting ready to turn 41, which is a blessing. It's weird because I thought, by now I would have been married and had kids and yada, yada, yada. But I can look back and see the people that were in my life who I would have married. If I did marry them, I don't think I would have grown into the person I am today. And I really like the person I am today. I like her a lot more than I have liked previous versions of myself. So I feel like little rabbit trail, but going back to the story that we're telling. So people start calling me over and over and over, and then people started paying me without me asking. And at first I kind of refused it because I was like, we're friends. Like friends are supposed to be able to call each other for advice. One friend in particular who, when we first started hanging out, she was an associate trying to make partner at her firm. Now she is a partner. She's like, no, like the caliber of advice that you give is not the same as like the generic advice that people get from friends. Like this is professional level advice. It's different. And that's why I'm coming to you, and you should be charging. So she paid me. And then, a friend who I'd known almost 20 years paid me without me asking. And I went to my coach. He's like, no, like, you would be really good at this. You should do it. And so I began a journey of qualifying myself, like just knowing that people were willing to pay me and knowing that I'd been giving advice my whole life didn't feel quite like enough. So I did a couple of masterminds with Susie Batiz, who is phenomenal, like just amazing. She's the founder of a company called Poopery. She lives here in Dallas. And that was like the beginning of my journey as a life coach. And then in 2021, I got my first coaching certification. Since then, I've gotten multiple other coaching certifications. And this year is like the first year that I'm doing like high ticket masterminds for training. So constantly evolving my skill set and my knowledge set, but the rate at which I'm evolving it has, in the last 2 years especially, constantly accelerated. So what I realized is that with the jewelry line, what I really liked about it was not just the accessories and playing. I liked that it made women feel beautiful. And when you make a woman feel beautiful, she's more confident, she's more resilient, she stands up for herself, she's more willing to say no and walk away when the situation doesn't serve her. That friend that I mentioned that was an associate is now a partner. She would say, every time I wear your jewelry, I get more compliments. And the first couple times she said it, I kind of like let it ride. But then I was like, when you wear the jewelry, do they compliment the jewelry or do they compliment you? And she's like, well, I get more compliments. I was like, that's because when you wear the jewelry, you like how you look, so you show up differently. It's not about the jewelry. You are the magic. It's just the jewelry reminds you to unlock that and show it with the world. And so I really began my life coaching with the jewelry line. And telling the story now seems like, oh, like no big deal. But with the jewelry line and with the life coaching, I was really scared to do both because I was scared of what people would think. I was scared that people would think I was crazy. I was scared that people would be like, oh my God, she's not serious. And everything I was scared of absolutely happened. Like, there were people who were like, wait, you work in an investment bank, just be normal, don't sell earrings, what are you talking about? And especially the beginning when like everything was shot like at my coffee table on my iPhone, like before I had like a professional photographer. It was like, this is weird, why are you doing this? Just be normal, like just be normal. And like the whole being normal thing, I don't even know what that means. I hope I never know what that means, but I'm not cut out for it. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. Not my size, not my color. I need a drink break. So, and then with the coaching, even though people had been coming to me for advice, and even though it was normal for me to spend 2-3 hours in the evenings on phones with friends, helping them sort through their drama, the idea of charging for my time and my knowledge, even though as an attorney, that's what you do, the idea of charging for a non-legal skill set, knowledge set, seemed crazy to me, absolutely crazy. Even though at this point I've invested over 6 figures into my coaching knowledge, so charging just does not seem like a big deal. But initially it was like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. And the big question for me was like, oh, if I put myself out there as a life coach, like people are gonna be like, who does she think she is? And like, we remember her when she was like this and yada, yada, yada. And that absolutely happened. When I first started, holding myself out as a coach and saying, okay, like if you want advice from me, you now have to pay for it. There absolutely was negative backlash. I absolutely lost friends. The girlfriend that I was super close with at the time that I started my coaching practice was someone who would literally call me at work. She's a housewife. And she'd call me at work and want to vent for like 2 hours about her childhood issues, her dad who didn't love her, her this, her that, her the other thing. When I first started life coaching, I think my rate was like $60 an hour. Like my hourly rate has a comma in it now, but in the beginning, it was like $60 an hour. And it's kind of funny, but like yeah, I couldn't get clients at $60 an hour. Like I had more clients when I was at $400 an hour than I did at 60 an hour. But anyway, but this friend that would call me and like want to talk and vent and whatever, the second I said, okay, like, you know, if you want to book a session, you can, here's the rate. She was so offended. Like, how dare you? And I, you know, there was a slow fade of the relationship after I implemented the new, like, you need to pay for, you know, deep soul probing, you know, childhood trauma unhashing, you know, sessions. She didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like it. But you know what? My inner child liked it, because prior to setting that boundary, the core belief, the lesson I'm sending is that like other people's problems are more important than my time, my energy, my space. And so they have priority and they can come and call me whenever. Like I had to learn to stop picking up the phone just because it was ringing. I had to learn to trust my intuition and know that when certain people call certain times a day, it's only noise, it's only drama, they're only wanting to vent or get advice for free. And if you don't want to get sucked into that, don't pick up, let them leave a voicemail. And eventually they'll stop calling, which they did. And guess what? I don't miss them. It's fine. Because at the end of the day, like they were, I didn't see it at the time because I didn't know this term, but they were, what's the term? Energy vampires. Like they were wanting to just suck the life out of me. And for a long time, I let people do that. I don't anymore. Now I need my energy. It's lovely. I need it to create. If I was allowing energy vampires to suck the life out of me, I'd probably be on the phone with someone right now instead of recording this video on my phone. Can't do both. I can't be like giving advice for free and also recording a YouTube video. So by taking my energy back, I have more energy for sharing with the world and creating messages that can help people that I may never meet. And to me, that's more satisfying than, you know, sitting on the phone with someone who is not paying for the advice that they're just not going to take anyway. Like if you're not going to take the advice anyway, like let me create a YouTube video that can, you know, make it across the globe the moment I hit post instead of just take my energy and my time that I can't get back for yourself and not paying me for it. So sharing all that to say that I know that people can look at me and think, oh my gosh, Diana's so brave. She does all these things. She's so fearless. I'm like, that's not true at all. I totally have fear. I totally have insecurity. I totally have felt very uncomfortable and very self-conscious with a lot of things I've done over the last couple of years. I just believed in what I was doing enough to be willing to endure the discomfort, but it didn't mean I didn't feel it. It didn't mean it wasn't uncomfortable. And it didn't mean that, you know, there weren't times where like I experienced real sadness, like losing friends, even if you know you're better off without them, hurts. And, you know, I wouldn't trade anything for the journey I've had, but it had hurt. So to wrap this up in a nice neat bow, a couple things I want to say is, you know, the whole theme message, this is about identity, right? Your identity is how you see yourself, but also how others see you. The way that I see myself throughout all the years of going from being like that salsa dancing college student to the law student to the young lawyer to the lawyer with the jewelry line to the lawyer who left the big job for the jewelry line with like the backup job to the lawyer with the jewelry line that became a life coach. Like I don't see myself differently. Like I don't. Like I think I'm still the same girl that like was in college and going salsa dancing 4 or 5 nights a week. Like I feel like the same person, but I know that the world looks at me very differently. And I feel like with everything I've done, I'm just revealing more of myself that was hidden, which is why like I don't see myself differently, but I know that other people do. So one thing I'll say is you were never meant to live in a box, but people will try to put you in a box to make themselves feel comfortable with you. And it's your job to remember that anything that's not growing and evolving is dead. And so if you allow other people to put you in a box, you will die. Your dreams will die, your hopes will die, you will die inside of a box. And so if you are someone who is obsessed with other people's comfort, just know that you're doing it at the expense of your own life, at the feeling of being alive. I personally think it's not worth it. You know, we can agree to disagree, but you weren't meant to be in a box. You're meant to live and evolve and have permission to change your mind and thrive and try things and fail and pick yourself back up. I've been thinking about posting some videos about how to deal with the fear of failure. So if that is something you are interested in, comment below and maybe I'll do a series on how to overcome fear of failure. But just know, you were never meant to be in a box. You were meant to spread your wings and fly and express and create and do whatever it is that makes you feel alive. And, you know, in different seasons of life, that'll be different things, but life is beautiful and it's meant to be lived, and you're meant to learn. And I, 15 years ago, before I started thinking about applying to law school, if you told me, oh yeah, like when you're 40, you're gonna, be a lawyer and have a jewelry line and you'll be a life coach, I've been like, what? Like, what? Me? No. What? That's crazy. Like, I'll be like someone's wife and a mom and, be living a simple life and drive a station wagon, and I'll be just driving kids around, and that'll be my life. Like, I'm not going to be doing like jewelry line, life coaching. Like, what are you even talking about right now? But here I am, no kids, no husband, jewelry line, life coach, and no regrets. Like, there are things, like I have curiosities, like what if I had moved to Houston for the dance company, or what if I had gone to law school in Houston, or who knows, maybe I will end up in Houston anyway. But I don't know, like, how I would have become the version of me that I am today. And like I said, I love this version of me. Love her. And her quirks and her like constantly changing hair color and, just all the things about the me that I am right now. Her love of beverages. Okay, so right now, speaking of my love of beverages, so this is herbal tea. It's like orange, rooibos, and peppermint. It's like a blend of different teas. So good. And then this is like a little mocktail with coconut water, sparkling water, and then a green minerals tonic that I'm like obsessed with by a brand called Golden Thread. Obsessed. It's so good. Oh, let me show you the bottle. I'm seriously obsessed. Oh. Okay. Seriously, if you can get this, oh, it's so good. Let's see. Golden Thread. How do I get it? Golden Thread, green minerals. I'm telling you, so good. It's got nettle, oats, alfalfa, rose hips, lemon balm, linden, clover, and chlorophyll. I think I'm in my lemon balm era, because anything with lemon balm. I'm also like currently really into alcohol-free cocktails, and the one that I like the most right now has lemon balm in it. So that might be it. I'm in my lemon balm era. Oh, so good. What's it sweetened with? It's got rose hips, which I also love. It's sweetened with monk fruit, like 0 grams added sugar. So good. If you're looking for a refreshing beverage, Gold Thread plant-based tonics. I'm telling you, it's not sponsored. I just genuinely love them. So, okay, this episode has officially gone off the rails. I'm like talking about cocktails now, but we've covered all the important things. So in closing, don't let anyone put you in a box. Now you know how I went from lawyer, jewelry designer into life coach. And I know to some people it can look like, oh my gosh, she's all over the place. But like I said, I see myself as the same person I've always been. I just think that there are parts of me that other people didn't see. Maybe I didn't display them, or, I think sometimes we can get just like familiar, and overlook like the thing that's right there, the thing that's right underneath your eyes. It's kind of like the guy, that's like perfect for you, and you don't realize it till you marry someone else. And you're like, oh, like there was a guy. Okay, this is the last point. There was a guy that I met when I was like 19, and for like 7 years, he would like go to my parents' house after church, and he was like trying. And if I knew then what I know now, absolutely would have married him for sure. Great guy, great person. But I told myself, okay, if I'm still single at 27, I'm gonna marry him. Well, when I was 26, he met this other girl, and I was like, well, he's been into me for like 7 years. I guess he can like date someone real quick before we get married. Well, by the time I turned 27, they were engaged, and then like a month or two after my 27th birthday, they got married. So I played myself, but it's okay. God has a plan. Moral of the story is the space you're in, life, things evolve. But I was making a point about how people can, the thing that's perfect can be right there, and you just don't see it because it's right there until someone else comes along and shines spotlight on it. So if you've got gifts and talents and you feel like the people in your world just don't see you or don't see them, it's sometimes because they're too familiar, and someone with fresh eyes will be able to see it. Okay, one more example. In my own life, I was doing personal development work with one particular company for a long time. It's the original place where I started doing my personal development work. And because I'd been with them for a long time, there was a lot of stuff that I think they didn't see, I didn't see. Well, end of 2024, I switched to a new personal development company where I'm doing my personal inner work, and being in a new space with fresh eyes. There's so many people who are like, wow, like you do this, you do, like what? Like you do, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, like all these things that have always been true, like they're seeing it because they're looking at me for the first time. I'm not seeing it because I'm just so used to like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I'm a lawyer. Oh yeah, I have a jewelry line too. And yeah, this is my background. Like not a big deal. But sometimes when people are seeing things with fresh eyes, they'll pick up on things that you've been overlooking, or that the people who see you every day have been overlooking. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end this for now. So if you've made it to the end, thank you so much for watching the space you're in, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.